Hello and welcome to another episode of GDL-IL, GDL Israel. Today we're going to speak about a few things that are related to Google Cloud Platforms, HTML5, new features and new APIs that you could leverage when you're building a modern web application or modern mobile web application. So without further ado, let's jump to the slides that I prepared. Some of them are based on my talk in last Google I/O, and I'll put links in the show notes so you'll be able to check them out. So before we jumping into see how we're building a modern web app, let's put ourselves on the same page and try to define to ourselves what is a modern web application. Few of the main characteristics that we see now in all the modern web applications that are good and quality is that all of them are self-contained. All of them are coming with one specific goal in mind, and they're trying to give the users the best capability to achieve her goal. Most of the apps will be built with offline first methodologies. So exactly like Eric Schmidt coined the term mobile first a few years back, today we want to think about those apps as offline first. So very similar to what you see today with native apps. Those apps will have one connection to the server, download the skeleton of the app itself, mainly the structure of the JavaScript, HTML, and CSS that define the app, and later on, the application could make more connections to bring data and be more useful. As we're shifting more and more logic to the client side from the server side, we see a flourishing in the MVC, MVStar frameworks. We want to avoid our spaghetti code, and we want to have a clear separation between our data and our views. All the apps will be device aware. We have today devices that have a 2-inch screen and TVs that have 100-inch screen. All of them have Chrome inside or any other web browser, and we want the user to be able to be productive. Doesn't matter what is the real estate of the screen that she is working with. So we need to think about when we're designing the app and then when we're building it, so it will do the best with the limited real estate that each and every device is allowing. Pref matters. It's a hashtag that we use during Google I/O just to make it as important as possible. Users love apps that are snappy and work fast, and we want to make sure that the web apps will work as fast as possible with 60 frames per second. Above it is, of course, waste, and below it, the user will make his life or her life less attractive. So why offline first? There's very good reasons down here, but I would like just to emphasize that we want performance. We want the app to work as fast as the app or the user to wait on an Ajax connection. We want to make sure that the app returning as fast as possible, and then doing in the background the syncing and making sure that we have the knowledge and the data both on the client and on the server. Of course, it's very useful when you have flaky connections like in coffee shops or on the car or on the road. And of course, in cases that you don't have any connection like a submarine or airplane. In our demo that we'll show you soon, we used Launcher. And the main goal here, or the main outcome from this slide, is just to take into consideration that you do want to use some sort of abstraction layer. How to achieve offline? Luckily, for us today, HTML5 is quite robust in terms of the APIs that it allows us to leverage when we're coming to achieve this goal. So first, we want to store the assets and the basic skeleton of the app, and we'll do that with App Cache. And then we want to store data. So we have a simple key value API, which is local storage, web storage. And for the ones that need a full-blown database on the client side, they could use IndexedDB, which is a NoSQL database. Or if you do want to use file, like you're using in any other platform, real files, could be text string files, and it could be binary files, just use the file API. The main challenge with offline is that you do need to pretend at the beginning that there is no internet connection, so you have just the skeleton of your app, and then you want to do in the background a very smart sync layer that will know what data the user needs now and what data should be saved in the one source of truth, the server side. Here at the bottom, you could see the one simple API that we have today that will allow us to know when the user is offline for sure. Then we could have an assumption that the user is online if the offline return code is false. How are we achieving App Cache? It's very, very simple. We do need to define the one manifest file like you see here. And in this manifest file, basically we'll define what is the assets that we want to live on the client side all the time. So in this very simple example, you could see here that we are caching the main JavaScript file, some simple CSS that is based on Twitter Bootstrap, and one image, just a really hello world example. One thing that you do want to keep in mind is that if this file is changed, the browser will be smart enough to go to the server and download a new version. So you never, ever want to cache the manifest itself, because you won't be able to upgrade your app, which is definitely not something you want to do. Another thing here is to have this comment. So usually, any change in this file will force the browser to make another connection and fetch a new version. And one easy way to control it is just by making sure that your build tool is changing this one line and just increasing the version. As you can see here with the link in caniuse.com, AppCache is quite popular, and all the different mobile web browsers supporting it. So you could definitely leverage it. It will work when the user is online as well. So you're achieving the boost in performance because assets that are already there on the client side are not making any network connection. So if you have few images or an icon for your app, you don't need to go and fetch it from the server after the first download. In terms of storage APIs today, here you can see the lay of the land, and we do have local storage, as I said, on all the different mobile browsers. With WebSQL and IndexedDB, we have a bit of an issue, because as you can see, WebSQL is supported on all the different platforms, but IndexedDB is so far not supported on iOS. So when you do want to work with a full-blown database on the client side, you do want to check one of the abstractions layer here, just to make sure that you are more productive. The IndexedDB shim basically will let you work with WebSQL and IndexedDB in the same way. And you could search later on my blog. I wrote a blog post that lets you transfer your WebSQL code to IndexedDB code. The main reason is that WebSQL is a deprecated API from 2010. So as you all know, it's the best practices not to work with a deprecated API that won't be developed, maintained. And you do want to move to an API that is supported by the W3C and the browser vendors. And that's why we highly recommend to move and work with IndexedDB. Not to mention that IndexedDB by default is working with JSON objects, so it's much simpler to work with your JavaScript code, of course. Let's speak briefly about designing modern web applications. The new way to do it, it's quite different from the old one in the sense that we don't have today this long waterfall process of let's ship the design to the designer. They will dream things in their Photoshop, giving us the PSD. We'll need the process to break it down to HTML and CSS, and then show them what we did. Then they're returning to us with an answers that we did a horrible job, etc., etc. Today, most of the startups and other companies, people are trying to move as fast as possible. And the right way to think about agile programming and agile methodology is to have the initial design, or really the wireframes and the main framework of what the app will work and do, already coded in HTML and text. So have some sketch. The main building blocks are there. You could use Balsamic. You could use lots of different modern apps that are in Chrome web stores that will help you achieve this crude design phase. And then quite quickly, you could move on and do a more thorough sketch by just adding a layer of the CSS, so make it a bit prettier. So it's not just blocks now. It's maybe blocks with some color and some shape. So it's letting us grasp and see how it will work. Then we want some sort of a prototype, and we'll use it, or we'll add the layer of the JavaScript with our logic in it. And then the other is just, and that's actually the main phase that you could see the major difference between professionals and amateurs. That polish phase could be tiny, could be a very long and thorough one. But in that phase, you could actually see if the app is going to be a really shine one or not. And I'm speaking just about the user experience right now. Then, of course, it's trivial. We want to do some real thorough testing. Maybe use a real device lab just to make sure that the app is working on all the targeted devices. And then production and iterating more and more and more. When we're approaching it, we do want to think about the web apps and the mobile web apps as full-blown applications. So it's quite different from the old days, and I'm speaking just about 30 months back or something like that. It's not pages anymore. And you do need to take it into consideration and make sure that you're designing from bottom up and not just trying to put some nice colors and some nice shiny bottom on top of a current app. It will be much harder to achieve it. Another way to achieve large-scale apps is just to think of, or to break the problem to different models, different components. And in the near future, we'll see a huge improvement in terms of web components that the platform, the web itself is going to support. We'll do some more talks in the future, in the near futures, in GDL-IL and in GDL-Enlarge. And I highly encourage you to check it out because it's one of those revolutions that's starting right now. You will be able to take web components or to use components in your web app. It will make two things. One, there will be an ecosystem, so developers could sell components. And another great benefit is that every component in your app will be encapsulated. So we're achieving here the holy grail of encapsulation, and that's, of course, a great thing, a great benefit that you don't need to repeat yourself and achieve lots of great benefits in terms of maintaining, scaling, testing, and just making sure that you are able to build large apps with really solid building blocks. Less is more. In lots of those apps, if you remember, we're trying to aim or to achieve one specific goal. So it's very different from the portals or the old way that we had on sites that you're trying to achieve everything and then you achieve nothing. Here, if your app is taking photos, do just that. Try to do it the best you can, but do just one specific goal. When we're speaking about using and reusing code and things, the most important thing is to try not to reinvent the wheel and invest lots of time and effort on some problem that is already solved or someone built a library that solved it. Here are just few links to check out when you're thinking about your next project. And please don't let web or enterprise be an excuse for a poor design and poor UX and a poor user experience. When you do making your design phase, try to think about phones, tablets, or just the same form of devices. So if you have a phone and a tablet that are both with an aspect ratio of 4:3 or 16:9, probably it's a good corner to cut and make sure that your design is supporting those two screens in the same way. It will make your life easier, and actually the user won't notice it. Here in the example, you could see the Flipboard that having two different approaches to their tablet app and the mobile app. By the way, they didn't even use the memory muscles that user gained from the tablet experience, and on the phone, they just decided that the flip will be vertical and not horizontal because it's better user experience. When we're speaking about the unknown and different screen sizes, you do want to adapt to the adaptive app philosophy. You want to have, since it's really hard to just encapsulate everything that you think about in the DOM, you do want to make sure that the apps itself will be responsive in the sense that it will do the best within the same form factor. It could be 4:3 and it could be 16:9. And you do want to use progressive enhancement. One of the main benefits of the web is that it's everywhere, and even smartphones that are not so smart contain some sort of a web browser. So the most basic capabilities should be achieved with the minimum requirement. And then on top of that, if you're getting a real new shine phone that have quad-core and lots of capabilities and supporting many HTML5 APIs, yeah, progress on it and give a better user experience. But make sure that the users are able to do something with your app, even if they don't have the greatest and latest in terms of their web browser. A great example is Gmail. If your connection is really slow or the web browser is not supported, you will be downgraded to an HTML version that lets you be productive, but it's definitely nothing to compare with the full-blown Gmail that will work on Chrome. Definitely if you're working with the offline Gmail capabilities from the Chrome Web Store. When we come to build web application, there are a few things that we need to think about and just keep working and polished. So one is, of course, the basic fundamental separation between our data and our views. That's one of the main reasons that we see many different frameworks out there that are coming to solve this problem and making our life more, let's say, painless or more beneficial in terms of productiveness. It's not just the separation. It's coming to tackle few things that developers are tackling again and again, like two-way data binding, like dependency injection, testing capabilities, and the way to hold in your code the state and the data of your user. One of my favorite client-side framework these days is AngularJS. AngularJS is one of those open source projects that started in Google. It's found it to be really useful, and lots of people are using it both internally and externally. And lucky for us, web-front developers at large, it's an open source project now. And what I do like at this framework is that it took a very different approach from all the other frameworks out there. Those smart guys that came with a heavy Java background decided to bake dependency injection and testable capabilities in the framework from day one. And it's one of those power features that really make you more productive, specifically where the apps is growing quite fast. It also has a two-way data binding. And one of the beauty things that I really like is that it's basically looking at HTML and just making it dynamic. Other great things that I highly encourage you to check out is the directives in Angular that basically is a web component of the future, but today in Angular. So you could be really productive by encapsulating your code, making a directive, and then use it and reuse it again and again. When we're speaking about the mobile world today and the flourishing of mobile devices, in most of the cases, if you build on your server some strong API, you will want to consume it from different devices, different browsers, and different platforms. And it's one way to just use with the RESTful API from your mobile web app, and another way just to use it from your native iOS or native Android app. With that, we're just going to cloud endpoints and why it's extremely good for you. We always have this long way to achieve our great app and our great unique knowledge by dealing with the server. And server is not an easy problem, and usually you need to think about lots of things and scale it on your own and making sure that you are being able to handle with huge amount of logs and sharding, and lots of pain points. And in the end of the day, even if you're starting with a simple API at the beginning, quite quickly you see that you need to deal with spiky traffic that's making things even more hard. And you do want to have some sort of communication or authentication, serialization, and not to mention search and other APIs that you'll want to use over again and again. Luckily for us, I won't touch on it too deeply, but with Google App Engine, Platform as a Service, we have all those things being taken care of for us, and that's being taken care of for us by the top experts in the world. Lots of different high-scale apps like Khan Academy, Pulse, and others are hosted on App Engine, and App Engine have the automating scaling and lots of other benefits for you. We have App Engine technology supporting today Java, Go, Python, and PHP. And the main thing here is that for us, front-end developers, I just pointed the arrow here on the right, you want to focus on what you bring to the table and not tackling with usual administrative stuff that you do want someone else to take care of for you. With Cloud Endpoints, the beauty is that you basically sitting on top of Google App Engine, but with a certain or unique interface that lets you later on consume your API from any platform. It could be Android, it could be iOS, it could be the web. Let's just back up for 1 second the track and see what we're talking about. Basically, we have in Google APIs a discovery API. And in this discovery API, you could see this JSON format that lets you understand what the API itself is doing and how you could tap into it and leverage it. In our short example, it's the URL shorter, and you could see here that you have the full description. And as a developer, you could come, consume it, and then use it quite quickly. The benefit with Google Cloud Endpoint is that you could have this discovery document for your needs. So if you're working in a company that have a, let's say, a front-end team and a back-end team, this discovery document that Google lets you have and leverage could be the one point that those two teams are interacting, and this is one way to just work more productively. Luckily for us, we have many client libraries that already contain those APIs and making your life easier. So I won't touch about the server side, but you could imagine that there are even more libraries than the ones that I choose to mention here. On the mobile, we're having a very nice coverage with all the main platform out there. And of course, for the web, we have it with JavaScript, for Node, and for Dart. Just to see how simple it is, so basically what you need to do is just load with this one call, the Google API client, and giving it a callback. Once you're giving it the callback in the init, we'll come here, and then we could load the shorter API, the ads API, map API, any API that you want. You could just specify the version if your application is supporting a specific version. And of course, giving it here another callback so you could start running and do interesting stuff with the API itself. So what we saw here is that it's basically giving you the one ability to just focus on what you are doing good and what you are excelling at, and then consuming from any platform. Let's have a quick look about how simple it is to work with our app that we built. And we built an app that is called Pictures. Let me just, you know what, we'll do it in a second, and I'll show you a live demo of the app. But here you can see how easy it is to get a photo from the app. So we'll have this GET request with the photo and the ID. And here we're getting the response back. So we're getting the photo encoded in 64 base and all the metadata that we have on this photo. An insert on the data on the server side. Here is a shortest Python example that we gave you how easy it is to work with the Python version. But for the ones that are passionate about Python and want to see more how you could leverage and build Cloud Endpoint with Python, we'll have a full show in the near future that will just focus on the server side. On the client side, you can see here that in our drag and drop example, we're going, and when the user is clicking on the save button, we're just going on line 3 to 5 and just fetching all the attributes from our form, having a simple short case on line 7 for the photo itself because it's a bit trickier. And then we're just going and call Google API with our own unique API that we created, which is called Pictures, and just calling photo.insert with the payload features. Then what we need to do is just execute it and have a callback. As you can see here in the callback, we just want to make sure that everything is done properly and give the user the notification that the photo has been saved. Or if something went wrong and we have 400 or any other error code, we want to confirm it and notify the user about it. The update example will be exactly the same. We just use the endpoint of update. So it's quite sweet. And for the ones that are saying now, hey, Ido, come on, it's not very efficient, right? You change, let's say, the name, and you're giving me all the upload again. We do have the endpoint of patch, which giving you the ability just to give the server the deltas that you change. So we saw all the most basic CRUD operation, and to get the list of our photos, it's very simple. Here you can see I'm just calling the list, and then I'm executing and going on the item itself. And of course, add photos could do something interesting for us. Let's jump to the demo, and let me just show you how the app is working. So I'll share my screen, hopefully the right one. And let's see that I'm sharing. Yes. OK. So this is the screen. And I'll put in the show notes a recording of this demo that we did on a live mobile device. But for now, just to show you quickly how the app itself is working. So as you can see, we have here the ready button. And for now, I won't disconnect the network because I'm during a Hangout and we do need the network. But if you want later on to go to Pictures app on appspot.com, and play with the app yourself, you'll be able to see that if you are, after of course you downloading the app and working with it, you are disconnecting your machine from the network, this button will change its color from green to red, and it will be written here offline, so you'll know that you are now offline, but everything should work. Right now we are online, and let's say that I see my amazing photos that I already took. Let's try and add a new photo. So I'm taking a photo. In our case, it's just opening in our file, and I'll try, and we have here a QR code. I'll give it a title and description, and I'm saving it. Now notice when I'm clicking on save, we're getting a confirmation that the QR picture was saved locally quite quickly because we saved it in the local storage very fast. And now you could see that we're getting another confirmation that the photo was sent and been saved in the cloud. The beauty here is that you saw that for the, and we did it, of course, the two-phase commit here just for the demo purposing, but to show you, the developers, how quickly it was to save it locally, to making sure that we're doing the right thing, and the user, even if it doesn't have any connection or very flaky connection, the responsiveness is immediate, and the user gets something quickly. The other side of things is that we do want this one source of truth, and we do want to share the information in the server, so from each and every device that the user will go later on, she will be able to download and see all the photos, and that's what made it very nice. So we have one source of truth, but then we're saving it locally as well quickly. Let me show you here one of the beauties of the web platform today. If I'm opening DevTool here by right-clicking and inspect element on the take photo item, you could see here, and let me make it much larger. So yeah, now it's better. So you see here, I wrote the comment, the magic is here. Basically, this one line, not the label, sorry, the input. The label is just to make the button nicer, and that's one hack that you'll need to do if you want such a nice button and not the default one that the browsers are now giving you, and it's not so sexy. But the nice here is that the platform itself letting you today have this input field, and once you're putting in the input accept image, capture camera, if you run it on a mobile web browser, let's say on a Nexus 4 or any modern Android device or iPhone, you will get the ability to take a photo now from the camera, or to choose a photo that you already save on your mobile device without PhoneGap, without any other external source that you need to compile or to bake into your app. So we see clearly that the web platform and mobile browsers are running fast into the right direction. And that's basically letting you now, of course, that I'm not in a mobile environment, just to do the right thing and just to choose a file. So let's choose quickly another file, and not a very good one. Conversation. Let's save it. Again, you could see that it put it in the right place, and it will give me another confirmation once it's being saved in the server side. Of course, we have here you go. We have some nice capabilities to do sharing with G+ API, but I guess we'll touch them. We'll touch on them on the next episode, because I see that quite quickly we're running out of time. Let's just jump real quick to the main outcome from the main takeaway from the talk. Basically, what we wanted to show you is that it's a really powerful solution to build your next API and then services on Google Cloud Endpoints, and we highly encourage you to check it out. Other great aspect today to front-end developers, it's HTML5 APIs and the readiness of the mobile web to give more and more capabilities and closer ability to be close to the device and close to the metal, to the developer and to the user. So things like Geo API, rotation, or orientation, accelerometer, Bluetooth, etc., are being baked into the platform quite quickly. Some of them are already there. AngularJS is one framework that lets you be more productive, and it contains some of the cool aspects like directives that are basically what web components will look in the near future. And in mobile web browsers, you should leverage new cool things that are going to be there quite quickly, like WebRTC, multi-threads in web workers, and flourishing movement in CSS3, layouts, and other great benefits. So thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to ping me on G+. You could find me here or on Twitter. The code for the app itself will be on GitHub. Actually, it's right there on GitHub right now, and you are most welcome to take it. And the slides will be later on Ido-Green at appspo.com. So let's see if we have any questions right now. I see that we don't. So until next time, thank you very much, and bye-bye.